Joining me is Traci Donahue. She's the CEO of the Cross Valley Federal Credit Union. And Traci, before we get to getting help to consumers, the COVID-19 spread has created a huge problem, a huge financial impact for many consumers, for many folks in our state and throughout the United States.
That it has. It's been a difficult journey for a financial institution, let alone I can't speak to the entire financial industry, but I can say from the credit union, the environment has continued to change. We've had people that have been sheltering in place, others that are venturing out. People are fatigued by the restrictions. You have, the impacts of businesses. It's just been a very difficult time for everybody.
Yeah, and then you take a look at the restaurants and the bars and the salons, and you go through a whole bunch of consumer activities that, these are folks they're going out of business right and left, and and many of them aren't going to return.
Yeah, and we've seen that in our communities. It's been very challenging because, one of the best things about the credit union industry is we were able to be one of the ones to hop onto the PPP program, where the banks kind of struggled, and, maybe they were focused more on the larger businesses and the larger industry. The credit unions were focusing on those small businesses, the hospitalities, your hair salons. They came to their credit union first because we just were able to already get things in place, and we knew that's our purpose, is to help people.
That goes to the point that you often refer to yourself as first responders. I get it. You're not, everybody knows what a first responder is, but I don't think when it comes to helping consumers that you normally put that in the same vein, correct?
No, normally, and it was interesting, even for my staff to go through the process, they didn't understand that we were essential. They're like, why are we still open? And I said, well, we're essential workers because it's our job to find solutions for these people that are struggling. So, you need to be on the phone when they call, and we need to find a way to help them, whether it is giving deferments of loans or, coming up with products that help them. That's our goal. And we did man the phones.
Well, let me pick up on that theme where you are, financial institutions are considered essential. Explain that.
Well, I think that what the essential ability is even though people are sheltered down, their debit cards still need to work. Unemployment still has to come in so they can get paid. Stimulus money has to come in. So, we have to make sure that happens, and we have to make sure that, that we are educating and helping the members navigate this time. So maybe somebody lost their job and they have a mortgage loan. How can we set them up for success so they aren't failing?
That's a good point. And the fact of the matter is that you have probably seen an enormous increase in the number of people who've been in your offices all through the state, you banks, other financial institutions, to get some kind of help.
Yeah, we have seen it, run across the gamut. Some of the larger institutions have really seen heightened PPP for the businesses. Cross Valley really isn't strong in business lending. We're strong in the consumer side. So we've seen more help with financial counseling. My income's been cut in half. How can you help me? Can you help me with the budget? Yeah. So that's the kind of things that we sit down with our members to do. Yeah,
we're going to run to a break. I want to talk about crisis assistance in greater detail because I think that's important to the consumers. And we'll get to that after these words.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by the Pennsylvania Medical Society. Inspired physicians committed to the good health of Pennsylvanians and the advancement of the practice of medicine.
We're chatting with Traci Donahue. She's the CEO of the Cross Valley Federal Credit Union. We're talking about a whole bunch of aspects of how financial institutions are dealing with COVID-19, the economic aspects of it in particular, the financial aspects of it. And Traci, I want to go to another subject, and that is we are in a genuine crisis. I don't think anybody would doubt that. So what kind of assistance can consumers expect?
Consumers can expect in the financial industry, modifications to existing loans. They shouldn't be afraid to reach out to their financial institution to ask for help. That's what we're here for. We're here to help them navigate this time. We've done fee waivers. We've created, new loan products, extending payment time. We've done lower rates, which everybody's seeing lower rates. We're doing financial counseling, some debt consolidation, how do they protect their credit?
Yeah.
We've done huge donations to community organizations. We're trying to help our hospitality and those businesses by donating, volunteering, getting their word out. And I guess most importantly, with COVID, we've shut down the branches. So we're really focusing on a lot of remote banking and how can we help them remotely at this time.
Yeah. One thing that I noticed in the material that you put out is loan extensions, and then there's skip a payment. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's two. So the loan extension really is where they come in and we say, okay, you can't make this payment, you need some time. So we modify it to where it's comfortable for them and it kind of tacks on to the end. Skip a payment is just what it is. They get to skip a payment. I would say it's a great thing for them at the time. Financially, it might not be the great thing, but sometimes that's what they need to do to get through the next level, and they still owe that payment back. So they don't get to skip it completely. It just gets tacked on to the end of the loan.
So that leads to another important question. How many folks, is it a large number, a medium number, a small number that need this crisis assistance?
I would say in the beginning, March, April, May, we saw a huge need. We were, manning phones and doing everything we can. We've seen the second half of 2020 look differently through the summer and in the fall. It looked differently, but now we're kind of seeing, even with the vaccinations, people still aren't back into their traditional roles. They might have lost their jobs and now they're finding a way, and maybe the income is lower. So they still need the help to kind of find that route.
Yeah, and so I guess when we talk about the state of lending, that's another, very important aspect of this, the state of lending. Is it strong? Are people coming in and they're trying to borrow money right and left, so to speak? Or is it down because people don't want to borrow money, and go deeper in debt?
I think it depends on the area, but over the first 9 months of 2020, both consumers and commercial lending have remained strong. This includes the second and third quarters of 2020 after the COVID pandemic set in. Pennsylvania Credit Union set a first half record with 7.9 billion year to date in originations. So we were up like 19.3% from totals reported through the second quarter of last year. So I would say that lending is strong and people have a need for it. We just have to be willing to work with them.
Yeah, this may not be the best question I ever asked, but how long do you think this is going to go on? I know it's so hard to predict, the end of the crisis. The economy didn't grow as fast as people thought, and there's arguments about unemployment and whether the numbers, are exactly correct that we get. So, are you prepared to continue this high level of lending, plus all of these other things that you talked about earlier about crisis assistance and doing things? Can that go on indefinitely?
One of the things I think that all of us have learned from this is how to pivot and how to change. Like we have learned now, we've never navigated anything like this, and we know that every day is different. I hope it doesn't go on, but I think if it does, we've learned enough that we can continue to change and pivot. The downfall for the credit unions and the financial industry is going to be the low rate environment for the next year. I think you're going to see a lot of financial institutions struggling, although it helps the members. It's a difficult time for financial institutions to to keep competitive with the technology and coming out with new products to help them.
You know, you hear a lot about aid and, you know, the kind of assistance that you're working through with individuals who come in for you. And we think very often about leisure and hospitality. And one thing we tend not to think about so much is manufacturing and construction industry. I mean, normally we wouldn't think of that given all the emphasis that's on, you know, restaurants and bars and salons, as I pointed out earlier. But manufacturing and construction.
Well, we actually, I'm in Luzerne County, and we actually haven't seen a decline in manufacturing. We've actually seen, and construction, we've actually seen more construction, more buildings, more warehousing. You know, Amazon is here and Chewy is here, and there's just a lot of industry that has, again, changed their model to meet what's happening with COVID. So we haven't seen a lot in our area about manufacturing and construction hurting as bad as the hospitality and those small businesses.
Mm-hmm. Well, look, we're just about out of time. I want to thank you for coming on. This has been a very, very important update, and keep up the good work. All right,
thank you so much.
We'll see you next week for another edition of Pennsylvania Newsmakers. And as always, you stay well.